I'll leave it to Ms. to engage you.
Councilwoman.
Melissa.
And you get to hold it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melissa. That was a fantastic introduction. Joy is the best. I wasn't going to actually go into the whole backstory, but I will touch on it. I'm the VP of Sales for Sideline Sports. It's a sports gamification firm. I go to a conference every single year called the National Sports Forum. It's wonderful. It changes cities. It's the one thing in our industry that is just top notch. Anyways, 2 years ago, in 2024, I was in Pittsburgh for the National Sports Forum. And it was the first time in 30 years of this conference running that there was an all-female panel. And in the middle sat Michaela McKenzie, who wrote a book called Money, Power, Respect. So after the panel, she had a book signing. I got my book signed, I fangirled out, and I got on the plane and started reading her book. I actually made it to page 6, put down the book, and mapped this whole thing out. And actually what's funny is very rarely do I get to talk, and Amanda's in the room. I came home, and I went to pick up my daughter at her best friend's house. And they were still doing whatever they were doing. So I sat on the floor, and I looked at her best friend's mom, my friend Amanda, and I said, okay, tell me, is this crazy? And she's like, nah, this is great, you should do this. So here we are. We started in 2024. We did a pilot program that year. We did 11 programs in 2025, and we're just kind of moving forward, but I'm jumping a little bit ahead. So what we are and what we do. We are a 501c nonprofit. We've done all paperwork. And we exist because of the connection between leadership and sports. There are so many things that sports teach us. And 94% of executive C-suite people had played sports. There was just all of this connection, and the Billie Jean King's Association out of New York had actually put together a 70-page white paper connecting leadership and sports. So we knew we were on the right page, and we knew that we had to kind of step in here. So why is this so important? Like I said, there's all this data that's connecting the two, but some of the big ones really come back to self-esteem, grit, and then you start getting deeper into the data, you're talking about higher graduation rates. You're talking about less likelihood of teenage pregnancy. You're talking about less likelihood of ending up in a domestic violent relationship, athlete versus non-athlete. There's just so much data to back up the fact that we really need to get girls in sports. So then the question became, why? Why are all girls not playing sports? There's all this data. But there's an issue. There are a lot of girls that are not playing sports. Unfortunately today, youth sports has become a luxury item. My son plays lacrosse. The amount of money we have spent traveling, and the helmet, and the shoes, and oh my God, they grow. So you gotta get new cleats the next year. And then heaven forbid, they don't have the new cleats. And it's like, oh my God. So all these things have become a luxury. And I thought, okay, if we give up our family vacation to put our son into lacrosse, what about the families that don't have that luxury? What about the families that are struggling for new backpacks and new shoes for the school year? It just wasn't fair. So when we really broke down what were the barriers, what was it that we could kind of tangibly get a hold of? Okay. And it really came back to options, access, and cost. Those were just consistent through all of the data that we were seeing. There wasn't enough options, and when there were, it was maybe only soccer, or only, cheerleading. Access, a lot of people are struggling with transportation. When you have 2 working parents, or a single parent home, or you're living with grandma, it's very hard to travel in this area because it's so spread out, and obviously traffic has gotten worse and worse, and we just talked about cost. So, to fix that problem, we hit all three. We developed a 9-week after-school multi-sport program. So the program actually goes on-site to the elementary school, which means we've taken out access. We cover 3 sports over 9 weeks, so we took out options. And for Title I schools, we fully fund the entire thing. We train and pay all of our coaches. We bring all the equipment with us. We provide an empowerment journal, because our sessions are 2 hours long. 80 minutes is sport instruction, and 30 minutes is our empowerment journal. Everyone in this room knows that we learn a lot of things on the field and being on a team. So we learn all these things unintentionally, and these journals are meant to make it more intentional. What does it mean to be on a team? How do you work with someone that you don't really like that much? Or how do you lose? That is huge. You need to learn how to lose. And so the Empowerment Journal talks about all those things, plus some. So we also talk about, self-talk and how important that is. And how do you have someone's back on your team, even though you're not really friends with them? But this is your team, and you have these people's back, and you are now connected. So that's the Empowerment Journal part of it. We also provide a snack. That wasn't originally on the plan, but when we ran our pilot, I got a phone call from the coach. She said, the girls are hungry. Okay, snacks it is. Snacks are expensive when you're buying them in this kind of bulk. We also provided a water bottle. We're like, we'll just tell the kids to bring a water bottle. It's like, well, what if they don't have a water bottle? So we provide water bottles, they keep them at the school, and they give them out so no one forgets it, everything's kept on site, all the equipment is there. All the kids really need to do is hopefully wear tennis shoes. We do have kids that show up in crowds, but hey, what are you gonna do? So the school gets to pick 3 of our 6 sports. Typically in the fall, we cover lacrosse, soccer, and softball. And in the spring, we do volleyball, basketball, and tennis. We do have 2 new sports coming in 2027, possibly earlier. We have one of our coaches who is really all about flag football. So I said, write the curriculum, we'll do it. Each one of our sports has a curriculum that goes out to the coaches. We hire coaches from the school, so we hire teachers, we train them, and then, so now we're not only not having to background check them because they're already teachers, but we're putting money back into the hands of teachers, which is really important to us as well. I think I covered all that. So these are a couple of pictures from our program. Up at the top, that's actually one of our early pilots. The girls are playing lacrosse. The girl in the center with the white shirt. So they did lacrosse, then soccer, then volleyball. And I went as much as I could during the pilot. And so I show up one day and they're doing soccer. And she runs up to me and she goes, when are we doing the other one? And I'm like, ooh, context. What is she talking about? And I'm like, volleyball, we're doing volleyball next. She goes, no, the other one. And I'm like, oh God, what is she talking about? And she holds her hands up. She goes, with the stick. And I go, oh, lacrosse. And her whole face lit up. She's like, yeah, that. And I was like, oh my God, she found her thing. And it's kind of eerie to logically think all this through, right? It makes sense. The data says this and all this. And we know that this is supposed to work, right? We can even say it's going to work. But when we're on site and when we see them, it's kind of surreal. You kind of get goosebumps. I rounded the corner at Ladson Elementary. And I wish I had that picture with me, I don't. I rounded the corner at Ladson Elementary, and they're all sitting on the wall, and they're all holding their pink lacrosse sticks. And I thought, oh my God, those delivered to my house. I sat in front of my TV for an hour, and I cut off every single tag, wrote our name on every one. And it was just a piece of equipment. But now, it was in their hands. That's 2 of them right there. The drill that they're doing, you have to put the ball down in between your feet, and the 2 of them have to back each other out. And they were having a blast. Every picture I took that day, they were smiling. It was fantastic. So some of the additional benefits, we've talked about a lot of them, but I just wanted to kind of dive down more from a larger picture. When you have girls that have been involved in sports, the likelihood of health and lifelong health and taking care of your body increases. Therefore, it's less impact on the system as a whole, and there's a greater impact on the entire community. We are really hopeful that there are girls that go through our program that find a sport that they love, play in high school, and get to go to college, and potentially be the first kid in their family to go to college. And we've talked about where we want leveling fields to go. And eventually, down the line, we want to have a team that helps them get recruited. I sat on a 1-hour webinar it was a 1-hour webinar on how to help your kid get recruited. I took 4 pages of notes, got off the call, and almost threw up. I was like, you've got to start. You have to have an Instagram account. You have to make yourself a highlight reel. And I'm thinking, both my husband and I were on that call, and that was a lot. So now, if you have parents that aren't involved, and there's just the child, what? It was bizarre how much work goes into it and just the way that the world has changed. So, obviously, that's the bigger picture. That's, what we're pushing for. Just a little bit about what we've done so far. So as I said, in 2024, we did our pilot. It was a 6-week pilot, and we got a lot of great feedback. And in 2025, we ran 11 programs across both Charleston and Berkeley County. It was a lot. We were scrappy. We moved equipment from one school to the next because we didn't have enough equipment to get all 3 of their sports to them. So we were, shuffling around, but we did it. And we built all of our curriculum. So every single sport has a curriculum. Obviously, these are teachers that aren't, totally flush with the sports. One of our coaches at E.B. Ellington was like, yeah, so we never played lacrosse before. I'm like, no, that's fine. She's like, but we're learning with them. Here you go. So we've had 5 coaches that actually have come back and done a second training with us. And what was really cool is in that second coach training, that second season, we said, hey, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the program? And Kesha, who's one of our coaches from E.B. Ellington, got up and she said, we had one girl in the program that was not into it, not happy. She was just pissed she was there. And Kesha was like, all right, so the first day she kind of let her wait. Second day, she tried to convince her to come. By the end of the week, she was participating, but by the end of the next session, so 5 weeks later, she was volunteering to show off new drills, and she was stepping up first. And that is really what we're doing here. And it's so cool to hear those stories and know that this is working. We are pulling people out of their shell. We also have a lot of volunteers. Okay, so where we're headed. We are really hoping by the end of this year that we will have staff, even part-time. Right now, because we're all volunteers, we are putting a lot on people that have full-time jobs, which, volunteers can only do so much, and we really do need dedicated staff. We also want to expand. So right now we're in 5 schools. We'd like to be in 7, possibly 10, depending. Obviously, with the Title I schools, we fund the whole entire thing. Our 5-year plan, and equipment obviously for each school, so we can stop moving it around after each session. Our 5-year plan is to be in every single Title I school in all of Charleston and Berkeley County. There are 39 Title I schools across both those counties, and that is our goal. Of course, I was at I gave a talk in West Ashley, and someone was like, what about Dorchester? I'm like, oh my God, give me a minute, calm down. So that's some of our goals. We do have camps and clinics right now that we are starting to conceptualize and get going. Most of the camps and clinics are going to be more on the fundraising side. We want to eventually get to the point where we can offer scholarships and things of that nature. that is all I have for today. I'm trying to think if there's anything I didn't touch on. I think I got it all, yeah.
Some girls' families will pay, correct, and some do not.
Yes, so when we run the program at a non-Title I school, the parents pay for their child to participate, and as soon as we break even, we kick the rest of the spots back to the counselor, and she divvies them up to the families that need them. So our Empower Play programs were never meant to be an earned income revenue maker. They're always meant to be, what are the bulk of our programs. So yeah, so they'll pay, and then as soon as we break even, we kick back the rest in scholarship.
This is in elementary school, did you say?
Yes, so our focus is on 3rd through 5th grade.
So what happens when they get to 6th grade?
That's a great question. So in Charleston and Berkeley County, when you hit 7th grade, you actually can participate for your high school sport. So the reason that we stopped at 5th grade was actually just physical. The 6th grade is mostly in the middle school, and so they'll have that weird year. We'd like to try and find a way to fix that, but with the 2 locations and stuff. But the hope is that we've gotten far enough along so that in 7th grade they can play for their high school team.
So just for comparison, what sports are offered in the non-Title I elementary schools?
By us or by them?
Please?
What do we offer?
No, just, you're saying the Title I schools have no programs, so what's offered in J.B. Edwards or Sullivan's or whatever?
Not, unfortunately. My kids went to Philip Simmons Elementary, and we had a girls volleyball team. That was it.
I'm familiar with this, a girls run program or something.
Girls on the run.
That's the one thing I'm aware of that's in the elementary school locally here, but I don't think there are other programs for kids in the elementary schools here either.
No, there's really not. I mean, there's the Charleston Rec has programming, and Goose Creek Rec has programming, but again, you run into a transportation issue, and for some kids, that's still a cost issue, not only with the fees, but also the equipment. But yeah, the schools themselves, it's hard to find. I tried it. I don't remember, they're trying something, and they do youth basketball, but they're also a third party that comes in, and there's a cost for kids to participate in that.
So Melissa, is it fair to say that Charleston County does not provide organized sports in the grade schools?
They do not. Not as a So Philip Simmons is the one that we know the most about because that's where my kids went, and we've learned from Berkeley County through that. There was no middle school sports available for volleyball. There was a volleyball team, and I think that there was a football program, but again, neither one was run by the county or the school. It was usually just a third party coming in and getting involved.
So if a child goes through this program, goes to middle school, there's nothing 6th grade,
Right.
how would they even be able to compete to get on a high school team if they only had a several-week program?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Our program is really meant,
Just stimulate it.
it's really meant for exposure and trying to help them find an avenue to play. I mean, honestly, lacrosse is so new in this area that I tell a lot of our girls, I'm like, hey, listen, softball and lacrosse, you can walk on in 7th grade. You can just walk on. My daughter did not pick up a lacrosse stick until she was in 8th grade. The next year she started on varsity. The program is on the newer side. She was a natural athlete. So we've seen some of these girls pick up a stick or do a move, and we're like, yeah, that's an athlete. And so in this area, volleyball is cutthroat. It's very hard. You cannot walk on a volleyball team, but there's a lot of other sports where you really can. And most of the coaches that we've talked to at the high school level, they want to develop kids. So they'll take on 7th and 8th graders. They won't get a lot of playing time in, but they'll still be on the team and they'll get the reps in. Any other questions? Oh.
Now, what percent of your children stay with the program?
That's a great question. We don't have enough data yet because we've only been 2 years. Yeah, I can get it to you, but we don't have
I'm
the,
just curious, like, is there enough interest on their part?
yeah. All the schools that are with us right now are in they've been multiple years. So Philip Simmons is going on 4, E.B. Ellington's 3, Lagston's 2. So all the schools that we have right now, they now run the program multiple times. And this will be the first full program season that will be, we gave a pre and a post survey to find out more about, are we moving the needle? So we have a lot of things that are gonna come to satisfy more of the data needs, but we're just not there yet.
How was it, what was the process that you needed to do to actually have the schools or the county schools say, sure, we can do this program? What was it that your group had to do for that?
Yeah, we require a liaison. So we require a liaison. So every elementary school has to have one person that is on staff that commits to being our liaison. So really anyone can champion us. Any staff member at the elementary school can champion us coming on. Once we establish a liaison, the liaison gets approval from the principal, and then once we have that, we move forward.
So it's not countywide, it's per school?
Per school, yeah. Both of the, we work directly with Charleston and Berkeley County and have approval to do this at their schools. So we have an MOU in place with both of them.
Do you have a criteria or a limit on the number of students that can participate?
Yeah, we do. Our programs go up to 30, and I say that, but we maxed out at Ladson and we went onto a wait list. And at the same time, within like 2 weeks, we had one of our other schools, they couldn't get, we have a minimum of 15, and they couldn't get to the 15. So because we had the funding set aside for them, we went back to Ladson and said, can you guys find a third coach? And they did. And so there are 45 girls in the Ladson program, which our liaison Colin said is too much. He's like, I might have bitten off more than I could chew. So we'll see what they do next year. But the hope is that if they get up to like 40, like 60 kids, then we can potentially do 2 programs if they have space.
What's the cost for the girls to pay?
Anywhere between $315 and I think $315 and like $450, depending on equipment needs and sports and all of that. We try and get it as low as we can, but we've got to cover as much as we can in terms of costs. The program typically costs around $9,000 to $11,000 to run.
So when you're thinking about the costs, you've got the cost of equipment, you've got staff. So to add a school, what does that take?
In terms of finances, or, okay, so actually, so that's a breakdown of what it costs. So obviously we've got the general supplies is like every school gets a wagon and a first aid kit and all of that jazz. These numbers are a little bit older. The cost of snacks went up. But this is typically everything that is involved in having the program run. Now, sometimes we've been able to get creative and move equipment from one school to the next, but we can't maintain that. We can pull it off right now with 5 schools, but when we get to like 10, my programs team just looks at me like, what's that? So, and I can't expect them to drive all over the place to move equipment.
So some of that is recurring, like in other words, you only have to purchase it.
The equipment?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a year-over-year of, I think we put it on like a 30% replacement of what we would need to get. However, to do in another school, we still need all the equipment. And like right now, if we had 4 schools that all ran lacrosse, we have to like we don't have enough equipment right now to actually do all 4 and give them all their equipment for the whole 9 weeks.
Is this running after school?
Yeah.
Session, so is there a bus or something that these kids stay later? Is there a way for them to get home or?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. There it is. It's directly after school. We do not have a bus. So the parents just pick up later like they would with the after school parent.
So I've seen, so you're new, but have you seen more of a trend towards one sport versus another with the offerings?
You know, not really. I'm curious as to what the coaches are gonna say this year when they give us their feedback. We tend to push lacrosse and softball because we know that the kids have a better chance of making it on a high school team. And when we bring up, when we do flag, I think that's gonna be a hit. And honestly, the equipment is so much less. But softball is very expensive. But the flag football, I think, is gonna really be a hit. And I think it's because the NCAA has implemented it and because there's now a pathway, it is not sanctioned in South Carolina, nor is rugby. So we are gonna have to work on that as well.
Just how many days a week after school would these kids be meeting for a particular sport?
Yeah, it's 3 days a week.
It's 3 days a week.
Typically we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's 2 hours. So it's like 80 minutes of sport instruction, 30-minute empowerment journal, and then 10 minutes of, snack breaks.
Where is your funding coming from now? For the most part?
Donations. Yeah, we had one major gift last year, and we all freaked out. We've got a couple of grants. USA Lacrosse actually gave us, they sent down a bunch of lacrosse sticks. That was amazing. But in terms of money, most of it has come from individual donors. We've done a couple of different campaigns. We were able to raise $54,000 last year. The River Dogs, I don't know how they rigged it up, but they actually connected us with a law firm, and so every time you hit a foul ball, we get money. So, all right, we cheer for foul balls. And so they gave us like just over $5,000. We got a big check. Charlie and Chelsea were there. That was my favorite. We've also the battery. We were the hometown hero for the battery. We got $1,000 there. So it's bits and pieces, but mostly it's been individuals.
I just wonder about like a place like Dick's Sporting Goods, locally, if you've approached that at all.
We have, and it all has to go through corporate, so then that happens. Go ahead.
Melissa, I'm just curious, where do you recruit your coaches from? Is this a part-time gig for them?
Yeah, so we always try and get coaches that are at the elementary school where we're running the program. So then it is just so much easier. They've already been vetted, they have their credentials, they know the kids. And so we always go to that school's teachers first. And we rely on our liaison to help us, to say, okay, who should we ask? Who might be interested? If that does not happen, for like one of our schools, we had to bring in outside coaches. And we have a form on our website where people can, inquire about coaching, and then they go through an interview process and a background check.
I assume you take donations of equipment?
We do. The only thing is they have to be very specific because our curriculum requires specific equipment. So there's this sweet 8th grader that goes to Christ Our King, and she did a huge equipment drive for us. But unfortunately, we could only use about 25% of what she gave us because the basketballs were adult-sized basketballs, and we have 8-year-olds. So, and we got a lot of baseballs, and we don't do baseball. So we now have a list. So when someone says, I want to do an equipment drive for you, we send them our list and say, this is what we need. And it has to be this size. And we can only take 27.5 basketballs. And, our softball gloves need to be between 11 and 12. So we had to get very specific because we Yeah, a lot of people give us shoes. I'm like, what? So, yeah. It was very kind of them to donate the shoes, but not really what we needed.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today. We really, really appreciate it. Of course, we have a donation table, but we also have wine and we have food. And Melissa and her staff and a couple of the board members who are here to answer any and all questions you might have. So, thank you very much. Well, let's hope. I mean, I've been getting a lot of $500 money. Yeah.